Good morning. Thank you for joining me for another 5 good minutes with the Word. I'm Barry Bryson, and we're continuing our study of Luke's Gospel, and we're in Matthew chapter 6, right in the middle of the Sermon on the Plain. Today, we're going to read some words that are completely new. They aren't in the Sermon on the Mount at all, although the theme clearly is in the Sermon on the Mount. Um, but it's just another evidence that although the two sermons are similar, they start the same way, they end the same way, and they serve the same purpose. These are two different sermons. Okay, we're in Luke chapter 6. I'll be reading verses 36 through 38. And I know we did 36 yesterday, but it connects these two thoughts. Be merciful, just as your Father is merciful, and do not pass judgment, and you will not be judged. Do not condemn, and you shall not be condemned. Pardon, and you will be pardoned. Give, and it will be given to you. Good measure, pressed down, shaken together, running over. They will pour into your lap. For whatever measure you deal out to others, it will be dealt to you in return. Okay, God says something, or excuse me, Jesus says something nearly identical at the beginning of Matthew chapter 7. That judge not that you be not judged, for the measure that you use against someone else will be used to you. And in that passage, the great topic is discernment, because he makes clear in the same passage in Matthew 7 that we have to judge people by their fruits. By their fruits, you will know them. And so it's about discernment. It's also about grace, and it's about not being a hypocrite. But the overarching theme is discernment. In the Sermon on the Plain, there are two themes connected with this thought, and we've just read the first one, which is the return. That we are determining our treatment from God by the way we treat others. As Jesus says in Matthew chapter 25, as you have done it for the least of these, my brethren, you've done it unto me. Well, we get kind of the flip side of that same coin. Um, and Jesus is saying in Matthew, the way you treat others is the way you treat me. And Luke is saying, and Matthew is too, but Luke is really emphasizing, or Jesus in the Sermon on the Plain, I should say, is really emphasizing this. The way you treat each other is the way God is going to treat you. And that's the big. So if we're not gracious with each other, we're not going to receive grace. That's in the model prayer in the Sermon on the Mount. If we don't forgive our debtors, God will not forgive us. Jesus comes right out and says that. That principle is clearly communicated here in a different way, but clearly communicated. But it's more than just grievances. It's also about the positive side of things, how much you give to each other. Um, Paul McCartney famously wrote in that last bit of music recorded by the Beatles, and in the end, the love you take is equal to the love you make. In other words, if you're not willing to love others, you're cutting yourself off. You've shut the faucet, and that's very much what's being communicated here. And then we have this image unique to Luke that is just so vivid, and most people lived on bread. The Roman army lived on grain, on bread. I mean, grain was just the staple of everyone's life. A few little vegetables, some herbs, meat now and again, unless you were really rich. It's grain. And so bread is the staff of life, and having grain to support your family. And so he's not talking about handfuls of grain or, a bushel full of grain, but shovelfuls over and over again in your bushel basket, being so full that it spills out into your lap, and still it keeps coming. And so it's beyond just getting, back what you've put into it. It's God giving you exponentially more because you were willing to give to others in the first place. And although that is in Matthew's gospel, it's clearly in Matthew 13, the parable of the sower, this exponential growth that God promises. Um, It's not in the Sermon on the Mount, not in this way, as it is so vividly communicated here. And I'm sure as vividly as we can picture it in our own minds, in their culture, in their society, I'm sure it was just this image of a horn of plenty that we can't even comprehend because we have a richer, more varied, and more available diet than they ever did. Okay, next time we're together, we're going to pick up with verse 39. Thank you for joining me for another 5 good minutes with the Word.